Hello students, welcome to my class. Today we are going to revise the chapter called colonialism and urban change. So these particular chapters I have already explained you, but I think you have already got some idea about this colonialism and urban change. Now just a bit introduction, we can go ahead with this chapter so that you will be able to know. Now let us know little bit about the objectives of this chapter. Now see, this particular chapter is we have got we need to know the process of de-urbanizations. Second objective, we have to understand the implications of colonial policies and institutions. Then a third one is to discover the nature of urban developments in the 19th and 20th century. So these are the objectives we find of this chapter. Next we have got like an introduction part, especially we talk about the colonialism and urban change. Certainly right from the beginning in this country, especially India, we have we have to calculate that from around the 16th century, the British actually starting their trading with the India through the East India Company. So beginning they didn't come directly the force, but they had the idea of doing their trading with India, because they heard that India is a great country in trading and exporting and importing the things and all, and also that it is full of natural resources. So we have already heard that these countries about name and fame in our previous books and different information. So now they started acquiring land to build their warehouses or godowns known as the factories. Then and these factories, ultimately they actually built especially near the ports and all, so that the goods they can massive goods they can store here, even the finished goods also they can bring and can store here and to sell in the market, and also the raw material which was they found in this country, so those raw materials also they used to gather in this factory. So it is not the factory in fact, but it is a godown in fact, okay, huge godown, and this particular godown was actually escorted by the police and armies even, because some time back there was a big clashes between these different companies came from Europe, and then there was quite many battles have been fought among themselves. So that's why there was a very huge pillar, very strong wall was actually created. Alright, so now we have seen that when this company actually ruled, when this company actually started trading their business and all with our Indian rulers, then gradually they started coming to know and coming to know their weaknesses, and we can find that by this 1857 we have got one revolt, that is most of this company people, when they started monopolizing their existence with different rulers. So the rulers understood that their ideology, their motive is different. So they started fighting against this British, and as in return the British actually retaliated through the different tricks, and then even the battle also they fought, and they managed to capture every bit of a kingdom which was actually part of the Indian kings and all and rulers. So we can remember that during this time, especially we have seen that when the British came, at the time the Mughal ruler was quite prevalent, and most of the areas where actually the influence of the Mughals were found more, and so most of the areas they gradually started covering through their warfare. And we can find that when they started ruling, when they started dominating, then this particular incident we are able to see through the books, that is 1857 report. So this 1857 report actually has taken place, and the company actually came to an end in this time. And then after that we have seen that British Crown took the control, British Crown took the charge, and then they started ruling. And for the convenience sake of the administration, the British India came to be broadly divided into two. There is the area under the direct administration of the British, and the princely state that were ruled by the Indian princes, who acknowledged the British suzerainty and remain their loyal supporters up to this 1947. So we have seen that princely states actually were supporting the British crown, and with their support actually the British crown actually started ruling, and the British crown got the maximum profit. Of course, they have returned their kingdoms and all, but the tax and revenues were they continue to collect as earlier. Okay, now the area under the administration of the British actually was primarily governed through three main areas known as the presidencies. Now, which are the presidencies we have to see in this chapter? So, Bombay presidency that we have to learn, Calcutta presidency, and then Madras presidency. So, these three categories of the presidencies were started functioning. Now, we have got another topic called de-urbanizations. Now, how this de-urbanizations actually has taken place. Now, in India, actually we have to know that India had actually witnessed the process of urbanizations as early as 3000 BCE, and ever since various urban centers came into prominence from time to time, and from Harappa and Mohenjo-daro to Kozambi, Pataliputra and Mathura in the ancient period, to Surat, Dhaka, Masulipatnam in the medieval period. So these are the processes how they say Indian towns and cities were actually taking place, and it is becoming the more and more famous and more broader. So what was it that led to the process of de-urbanizations in a country that had a history of prosperous and happening towns and trade? Now see, to answer this question, what do we have to say? That we have to look at the changes that were actually taking place in the late 18th and 19th centuries in England. So what happened in this time? So England was actually undergoing a major revolutionary, that is the changes in the field of technology. Okay, in the field of technology that was actually taking place, and often referred to as the Industrial Revolution. So it is known as the Industrial Revolution. It means a new machine has been come, and then how this machine started working, and for this machine the European countries can't give the raw materials, so it was insufficient, and as a result of that, our government or the companies started moving to the different parts of the world from the Britain, and then started gathering the raw materials. So they found many of the countries. They even visited to America, then Africa, Sudan, West Indies, then Malaysia, Thailand, Burma. All these countries actually they have already entered to gather all the raw materials, and our country, since it is very big, so even in India they came and they started using this raw materials as much as possible. So therefore we can see that in this time the British actually so much they utilize, so much they monopolize the things from India. So therefore, this created both a demand in Britain for raw materials required in these industries, and a market for the products of those industries. And the main purpose of the British in India was merely to make a profit. So now they is to get the raw material in a cheap price from India, and then the same product when they are returning to India after having made, then they are selling it in a high price. So that is actually, and gradually those who were making the homemade products, it was actually stopped, and those business and merchants were actually traveling to the abroad for selling all this textile and other jewelries and costly this gemstones. Then the European companies, they stopped them from traveling. So some such kind of like a bar was actually created, and then our Indian merchants can't proceed for that and can't sell. So in that way, our Indian merchants and traders became very much like poor, and they started ruining. And however, we can see that there are also some of the merchants, they opened the trade route with China and other country, not only the Europeans, and they kept that life remain strong. So that is also we have seen. So therefore, the British actually turned the Indian economy into a colonial economy, which became subservient to the needs of the Britain, and thus India was really made an exporter of raw materials to feed the British industries. in Britain, and mainly textiles. Okay, mainly textile they gave more focus. And as a machine-made goods were cheaper, these were actually readily sold as compared to the costlier handmade fabric, for which India was once the sole exporter in the world. The whole world knew about it, that India was very good for making the handmade cloth and all, and it is a very solid one, fine one. So, but that type of style, that type of cloth, the machine can't make, and yet they stopped them from selling to the European countries. So here what happened, the European markets, especially the Britain, started stopping these people to cross to do the business trade with other European countries, and they put them on them heavy charge, so heavy taxes were imposed on them, and so the Indian markets or Indian merchants couldn't do that their business properly. And in every countries, the British company only started capturing to especially in buying and selling all these areas. So therefore, so towns like Dhaka, Surat and Murshidabad, once known for their cotton textile, declined gradually because of this system. So the phenomenon was actually further aggravated due to the annexationist policy of the British, which had to the displacement of kings and princes, who gave patronage to the development of trade and industry, and the loss of patronage led to the decline of old towns which once had prospered. So their place was actually taken by the newly developed trading centers where the British ships uploaded themselves. Now the Indian process is often described as a de-urbanization in India. So due to this growing demand for cotton and indigo, the colonial government actually emphasized the cultivation of these crops to feed their industrial industries, and thus the process of industrialization, which normally lead to urbanization, ironically in India led to the de-urbanizations. So these are the regions how our India became the one of the like a supplier of the raw materials. Okay, so this is the things and all. And beside that, there are many of the areas these Britishers took control, especially they control our port cities and all. They control the planned cities, and of course they plan also when they made their capital, or they made their proper administrative center, Delhi. Then also they captured some of the areas like hill stations and all, which we can find Ooty, then Dalhousie, Nainital, Shimla. These are the areas also they captured, because they were from the whole region. Therefore, they have to spend their holidays and all in the cold areas. So these are the areas also they captured. So anyway, I just would like to ask you to read through this particular chapter. In my next class, we will talk about some other part of this chapter. Okay. So thank you.